guys, welcome to Hockey Bros Stanley Cup Playoff Central. Today, obviously, you guys know the playoffs are starting tomorrow. You could be watching this when the playoffs are already going. You could be laughing at the predictions that I'm going to tell you in a couple minutes. But remember, these are my opinions. Don't be offended, and it's nothing personal. I'll tell you real quick that I did not have the Ducks going to the Stanley Cup Final, so it's not biased necessarily. I'm just trying to... This is actually what I believe can happen. I tried to be unique. I wasn't going to say, something like totally like going by statistics. I was kind of just, sharing what I see in every team. So please respect my opinions and I'll respect yours. Feel free to tell me your brackets down in the description, the comments down below. And that's it. So basically, I'm predicting the playoffs right now. So here's my bracket. Tell me what you think in the comments down below. Let's get it started.
So guys, I'm here to walk you guys through my bracket. First, we're going to start with the first round, starting with the Western Conference. Nashville versus Colorado. I have to say here, this is a no-brainer for me to go with Nashville. Not only are they statistically much better than Colorado, but I think that they have that empty feeling, being eliminated last year in the finals. But that's not a team to get discouraged by that. I feel like they're going to come out even stronger this playoffs. And unfortunately, I don't think the Avs can do anything about that. So I'm going to pick Colorado to lose on this one, and Nashville is going to win. But before I reveal them on the bracket, I'm also going to do Winnipeg versus Minnesota. Now, this is a very good game, second versus third seed for the Central Division. The Central Division this year is really stacked. There's a lot of good teams, but I'm going to give Winnipeg the determination because their coach, Bruce Boudreau, on Minnesota is not a playoff coach. So there you have it. Winnipeg and Nashville in the second round, and I'll talk about that in the second round video. Oh, not video. Next scene, excuse me. Okay, so here are the Knights and the Kings. This is an interesting one. I can see why people would say that the Kings would absolutely dominate the Knights. And I think it's going to be a 7-game series. I'm honest. It's going to be close. Even though it's a wild card versus number 1 seed, Vegas is new. But since it's the first round, I don't think Vegas is going to break yet. That's just kind of a spoiler break. So I'm going to go out here and say that I don't think Vegas is going to win the Cup. But I do think that they're going to win this series. Next, we'll go to the Ducks and the San Jose Sharks. This is a very good series as well. You could go either way. But I watched the Ducks this season. They played San Jose in the early parts of the season where they were out with a lot of injuries. So if you look at the statistics against San Jose, it might not be the most accurate thing to go by just because of how many injuries the Ducks had when they were playing them last. So I'm not going to focus on statistics here. I'm going to focus on what I see on the ice. The Ducks are definitely a gritty, hard, determined team. And they have a great record against teams in the playoffs. Playoffs especially, like any team, they're gonna make them work for it. So I'm going to go with Anaheim here because San Jose broke down in the playoffs last year against Edmonton. I wasn't sure about that series. I thought San Jose could win, but watching them last year against Edmonton did not make me feel good about them as a playoff team. So I will reveal it now. My picks are Anaheim and Vegas in the second round. We now head to the Eastern Conference for the Atlantic Division and one Metropolitan wild card. We are here with the number 1 seeded Tampa Bay Lightning against New Jersey Devils. Now this series is going to be exciting. Although I will give Tampa Bay a very high statistical advantage, but not only that, we look at just watching the team this season. The Tampa Bay Lightning came out roaring out of the gates with talent such as Kucherov, Stamkos, and Victor Hedman on the back. They also, at the trade deadline, picked up Ryan McDonough from the Rangers as they were doing their fire sale. They also picked up another guy, forgetting his name, for Nemestikov. So Nemestikov left in that trade. But I think McDonough really solidifies their back end. New Jersey struggled with that for, in the later times. But they also got Sami Vatanen for Adam Henrique. which is a pretty good pickup. But I'm still going to give the edge to Tampa Bay here. They've been the good team all season. They seem like they want to win. Obviously not in the playoffs last year, but I do hope them the best, and I believe that they will win this series. And our last Atlantic Division matchup is between the Boston Bruins and the Toronto Maple Leafs. Both these teams have very good rosters, Boston being the more experienced of the two. Boston has players such as Brad Marchand, Patrice Bergeron, and David Pastrnak. On the back end, they have Charlie McAvoy, Torrey Krug. They're a very, very good team. They also have a depth forward in Rick Nash, who is not really a depth forward type, but that's what the Bruins are using him for. So there is no shortage of talent on this roster, especially for Toronto. Austin Matthews, William Nylander, Mitch Marner. Also the leadership of Patrick Marleau, JVR, James Van Riemsdyk. A lot of good talent on this roster. I feel like I'm going to go with Toronto for this one. Boston, although, has been, they were one win away from being the top seed over Tampa Bay. But in this situation, I think Toronto is feeling it this year. I think that they want it. They're young. They're fast. I think that they are ready for this kind of upset. So I really do think that they will win. So for our final first round series left, we have Washington and Columbus and Pittsburgh and Philadelphia. Now, these are two great series. Obviously, Columbus in the Washington series is definitely an underdog, big time. Columbus has some great talents, though. One would be Artemi Panarin, another Cam Atkinson. Obviously, their all-star goaltender, Sergei Bobrovsky, always great in net. Definitely trust him. But Washington has a serious advantage in this series. And remember, this is not the second round for Washington, so they certainly have a chance to win this series if I'm correct. So, just like what they did to Toronto, he was an even better team than Columbus. I think Washington will get past Columbus. Sorry, excuse me. Okay, so, yeah, last year they eliminated Toronto. I think they can definitely get Columbus this year. So now we'll talk about the rivalry series here. It's always a great one of these. Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, the battle for Pennsylvania. I'm going to go out and say this. This might not be for every team, but rivalries bring out the best in most teams I've seen. I think that Philadelphia is going to win this, and I think some people are going to think I'm crazy for saying that, but a rivalry normally brings out the best play in a team, and rivalries really charge a team up, and I think Philadelphia is just going to want it. Pittsburgh might think they're going to roll over them. It's the first round. So I think Philadelphia is going to upset Pittsburgh. It's going to be heartbreaking for Pittsburgh fans, but I think it's just going to bring a light that any team is beatable in the playoffs. And I could be wrong, but I'm just going to go with Philadelphia here. And we're going to look right now at the full first round setup here. In 3, 2, 1. There it is, guys. There is the second round all set. I'm going to now make my predictions. Now, here are two great Western Conference matchups. Winnipeg and Nashville. And so, I'll talk about this one first, and then I'll talk about Anaheim and Vegas. So, Nashville and Winnipeg would be a great series. Now, obviously, this might not be the series that we're going to see, but looking at this series, you have to give some kind of props for both teams. Nashville, at this point, I think will start getting a little bit, I don't know, they'll feel like they're kind of in the middle. The middle ground is always where teams seem to slip up a little bit, in the second round. Winnipeg has never won a series. They would have came off their first series win. They have a booster. This is the second seed team versus the first seed team. Winnipeg has the scoring power and the fans behind them when they go to Winnipeg. So do Nashville. These will be two great fan atmospheres in one series, which will be amazing. But I'm going to give Winnipeg Jets the win. Nashville was in the Western Conference Final last year and went all the way to the Stanley Cup. This is when I believe that they would be eliminated in the second round. And Winnipeg would be the perfect team to do it. So now we go to the Pacific Division matchup between the Anaheim Ducks and the Vegas Golden Knights. The Vegas Golden Knights are an expansion team. When I started the season, I said they'll maybe be second to last to the Avalanche. We all know that the Avalanche are in the playoffs. So some big things happening in the league, obviously. It's a very exciting season. Vegas is not, I can't say they're not because I haven't seen them play a playoff game, but they're not very experienced. There's a couple guys that have been in playoff games in the last year, but I don't know how they're going to handle the playoffs. But I also said I don't know how they're going to handle the regular season. So I'm just going to go out and say that Vegas does not have an advantage in any series that they're going to be in the playoffs. I believe that they won against the Kings. I believe they can do that. But second round, going deep, I don't know if that's what they can do. And the Ducks are a perfect team to tire them out. The Ducks are going to be gritty. They're going to be tough. I think the Ducks are a very, very not overconfident team in the playoffs, but a team that will really make you work for a win. And Vegas is a speedy team. They're not built for the playoffs. A playoff team that I think that does damage is a very gritty team, a team that plays physically. That's a playoff team, and the Ducks are that. So I believe that they will beat the Knights and go to the Western Conference Final. These are the two teams I believe that can be and will be in the Western Conference Final. Anaheim and Winnipeg. These teams met in 2015, the first round, where Anaheim swept Winnipeg. 3 years later, they would be playing in the Western Conference Final to go to the Stanley Cup Final. I think that this series, as you can see on the right of your screen, there's a little blue peeking out. I think Winnipeg will win this series. The reason for this is that Anaheim is tired. By the time they get to the third round, they've been through everything. And they haven't found out how to recover. They were tired once they played Nashville. They went through one longer series. One, they swept Calgary. And that was hard. They played a lot. And I think it's going to be a similar situation against Winnipeg. When they get there, they're going to be tired. And Winnipeg is a team that is going to... This is the only weakness of a very gritty, determined team, is that when they get tired and you're playing against a team that has some speed and goal scoring, there's problems. I think this would be a much different story if Anaheim played them in the first round. Might be different. But in the playoffs, I think Winnipeg's overall goal scoring ability is going to get the best of Anaheim. Now, as you can see, I've already revealed who I picked, and I'm going to tell you why I picked Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay here in this series, I feel like they're dominant just because of their overall experience this season, and throughout the whole season, we've seen the talent of Kucherov, Stamkos, Hedman, and McDonough recently. I believe that this matchup is pretty lopsided. Toronto's a really young team, only had 1 year of real playoff experience against Washington. Tampa Bay is much better than Washington, in my opinion, as well. So you just look at that kind of thing. They have some leadership in Marlowe, obviously, and JVR, but there's just still problems with this lineup. And, Tampa Bay has been waiting for this since 2015. So I'm just going to go out here and pick Tampa for obvious reasons. And now we're going to go the other matchup in this conference. So now we're going to go to the second round matchup and the final Eastern Conference final pick, the Washington Capitals and the Philadelphia Flyers. The Washington Capitals obviously are a great team if they're playing anyone but Pittsburgh. And Philadelphia will have been almost murdered by Pittsburgh, but somehow survived in a long 6 to 7 game series. And at this point, I think Philadelphia is going to be very tired, and Washington is going to take advantage of that because that's what Washington does. Like I said again, except for anyone but Pittsburgh, because Washington will never beat Pittsburgh in playoffs. But Washington, since Washington, I have them winning. Washington winning this, it'll be their first time in the third round, Hallelujah. But this series, I mean, you cannot deny that Washington is a good team. Even though they've lost in the last couple second rounds. You can, I'm not afraid to put them in my predictions. They're a good team, and they rightfully should have all of, our attention. But Philadelphia is not a bad team as well. Having Giroux and Voracek and Gostisbehere, obviously you are always going to be an okay team, and with Nolan Patrick as well. So not a bad team. Obviously, I'm just going to go and say Washington. Washington has a very high statistical advantage, and we all know, their second-round problems. But I believe that they will get through this because, therefore, they did not win the President's Trophy this season. So I believe they can and will do it. And now we're left with two teams in the Eastern Conference to play Winnipeg. The Tampa Bay Lightning and the Washington Capitals are two very good teams. Obviously, Tampa Bay took the crown as the best team in the Eastern Conference this season, which Washington has held for the last 2 years, as well as the President's Trophy. But this series, honestly, this is when Washington, I think, would get, we're in the third, finally, we made it past the second round, finally. Now we're in the third round. I could see an advantage of them being confident, but there's also a disadvantage because I think that they might think that they're satisfied with going past the second round. If you look psychologically, if they're patting themselves on the back for getting past the second round, that can lead to problems in the, especially in the conference final against a Tampa Bay team who's determined. Not saying that Washington wouldn't be determined, but I think Tampa has an edge here just because not only will they have home ice, but their talent this season, it's amazing. We saw it in 2015 as well. If they make the playoffs, they're super dangerous. So I think that this is Tampa Bay's year to be in the final, and that's why I picked them. Tampa Bay, obviously, that goal-scoring talent. Kucherov, amazing. How he can put the puck in the net. Stamkos, Hedman on the back end. It's amazing. So anyway, guys, that's my pick. Tampa Bay and Winnipeg in the final. What a series. Winnipeg battled through all that adversity. Some people don't even look at them as a potential cup champion. But Winnipeg wins.
So now I'm going to pull you guys away from the bracket, and I'm just going to talk about why I think the Jets and, basically, why did I pick them? Well, honestly, I think it's going to be kind of one of those Cinderella runs. I know that it's not quite a Cinderella run because they're not a wild card. They were a good team this season, but they've came a long way. They weren't even in the playoffs last year. I think getting Laine was definitely the most important part of this for Winnipeg, and also the emergence of Connor Hellebuyck as a good goaltender. He's been real solid this season. I think it just adds their success. They also got the addition of Paul Stastny, another depth, probably second line center. I think that they're ready, and it's going to be a shock for people if Winnipeg does win the Cup, because I don't know how many people see it coming. I just think, it might not be the most likely, but this is a bracket, and this is who I'm going to pick. And I'm not going to say, because the most likely, obviously, would be someone who was a President's Trophy winner. So, statistically, we would pick Nashville, right? But in a bracket, the NHL, most of the time, when you have a best series out of 7, and there's all the opportunities in the world to prove that you're the better team, it's going to come down to who can win games. And I think Winnipeg has the ability to win games, and especially against teams that are better than them, statistically. And you just think, they have real talent. They can do it. And I think that their fans are behind them in Winnipeg. It'd be great for the city of Winnipeg and the province of Manitoba to bring home a cup. I don't think that they ever did when the first generation, the now Arizona Coyotes, they never got a cup. This would be huge. And it would basically be cleansing themselves of the dirt that has come with being basically the Atlanta Thrashers franchise. They don't want to be the Thrashers. And to be to not be the Thrashers, you need to go deep in the playoffs. Then you get your own identity. You don't want to be that team that's always in the basement. This year they were not, and I'm proud of them. I think that this is their chance. You know, they're up in the standings. They're no longer in the basement. They're going to make the playoffs. The Winnipeg Whiteouts come back. This is when they need to do it. They have great talent. They're not that old. Line A isn't even in his prime yet. Like, they're going to be a bright team. We kind of said the same thing about the Oilers. Winnipeg has that firepower, and they might be able to manage it better than the Oilers. The Oilers, for example, signed Draisaitl and McDavid to huge contracts that are going to, definitely cause problems when they try to grow their team because they can't, afford people. And I hope that the Jets manage that better when they have to sign Line A probably next season to a bigger contract. I hope that they manage that correctly because I think, first and foremost, they want to win a cup. So if they want to win a cup, they need to be careful the way that they're signing their players. And I think that's the key to their success. And I really do hope that they win a cup sometime, even if it's not this year, sometime in the next decade. I really hope they win a cup. So thank you guys so much for watching. That's my bracket. Please feel free to argue with me down in the comments below about who you think can win the cup. Or if you'd like to, flip my series and say, this is why I believe that, say, the Kings will beat Vegas, or whatever series you'd like, argue with me in the comments. I'd love to hear you guys' opinions, and hope to talk to you guys later. So, thank you for watching this video. I don't know when my next Stanley Cup video will be, hopefully soon, but thank you guys so much for watching, and peace out, guys. And that's how you do a bracket, Hockey Bro style. See you in the next one.